Wait a minute, can't you see that I wanna fall from the stars straight into your arms? I feel you, I hope you comprehend.
Simply Red are a British band that originated in Manchester in 1985 from the remnants of some other bands. They're fronted by Mick Hucknall. They've had lots of turnover of members except Mick Hucknall. They had a hiatus in the somewhere in the 2000s. But over the years, they've managed to create 12 studio albums, and they've had huge success and sales in that time. Hi, my name's Dan, and this was the fourth album by Simply Red, and I think it's the first time that I've listened to it completely all the way through and heard all the songs on the album. It was a huge worldwide success, this album. It got to 12 times platinum in the UK. It was the best-selling album in the UK in the year 1991 and in the year 1992. That was very rare for an album to manage it 2 years in a row. And this is about the point where I went off Simply Red. I try and listen to these albums as much as if it was a fresh listening experience as I can. Sometimes I can do that. Often it really is, and I haven't heard it as a whole thing before. But sometimes there's some baggage that goes with it for me and for other people, I think, as well, I would say, for this album. And I think that the word that I feel kind of, I'm trying to avoid it, but I'm not going to try and avoid it anymore, is the word smug comes across through this album. So for me, the particular context is that of all the bizarre things that I've ended up doing in my life, around the time that this album was around, I got involved twice, 2 years running, in a short-lived charity-based FM radio station that ran for a month up to Christmas 2 years in a row. And this album was around, and some of the tracks that were on this album we played endlessly and in endless rotation. I got thoroughly sick, especially of Stars, which was just a huge hit. I think it was number one in the UK, and I just got fed up with it. So I have. I had previously liked Simply Red, and I felt that the first of their albums I've reviewed already in this series, and I really love it. I love that album. This album, less so, and some of that, I have to admit, I think is that kind of baggage that I've got with it. I don't think I'm the only one. So the album apparently was voted the second worst record ever made in a 1998 Melody Maker poll of pop stars, DJs, and journalists. And it became a thing culturally. It became unacceptable to like Simply Red anymore. A bit in the same way that Chris de Burgh had managed a few years earlier with his song Lady in Red. And I think the general overall feel is that it's kind of smooth and smug, and it's maybe overproduced. I'm going to pick this apart a bit more, though, because I'm going to, kind of in retrospect, looking back, I'm trying to separate it from that cultural thing, and I'm trying to separate it from my own baggage. And I think it's not that bad, which is kind of faint praise. There are some good tracks on this album. Finally, I'm going to get to do some description here. So I would describe it as blue-eyed pop soul. It's kind of got a faint soul feel to it. It's not anywhere near as soul as the Motown stuff that was back in the 60s, or even as much as people like Luther Vandross and Whitney Houston, etc. The production is meticulous. I'm going to use that word smooth again as well. It's pitched at being easy to listen to. Occasionally there's a bit of a groove with some of the songs, and some of the better songs have got a reasonably decent groove going on. And the whole production has got what I think of as being early 90s high fidelity productions. There was something that was happening in the studio technology at that point that meant that you got this kind of production where you could really hear the separation between the instruments and it's really clear. And I feel like this is production that was particularly prevalent in certain kinds of music, and it was kind of the adult-oriented market of album buyers, which was definitely the kind of market that I was in at that age. I was just, well, in 1990, I would have been 25. Yeah, so starting to come out the pop from the 70s into my albums in the 80s, end of the 80s, this was. Yeah, so I'm just trying to work out the maths there, sorry. Mick Hucknall, who's the lead singer, definitely can sing. There's no doubt about it that he is an incredibly talented singer. The feeling on this album is that for most of the time, he doesn't have the kind of, it doesn't give you the or it doesn't give me the goosebumps that the first album, Picture Book, does. So, and I've tried not to do too many comparisons, but between albums, but I think that this one, I feel it's really strong that I have to do this. So it's musically clean. It's musically there at times. I feel maybe I'm less jaded over the tracks that I didn't know. So the ones that haven't been hits, some of them I definitely responded quite well to as I listened through. So She's Got It Bad, maybe my favourite, which has got a kind of jazz funk groove going on. The Model, I think, not The Model, has got a synth dub kind of feel, which is quite nice. It was quite popular, that kind of sound at this time. Freedom has got a kind of funky groove, and it's kind of... Now, I'll come back to the themes in a minute. Wonderland was one that I didn't know, but I didn't like either. It's definitely got a kind of smooth ballady feel to it. And there's definitely, once you get past probably about 1980, soul ballads definitely seem to turn me off quite a lot. So of the tracks that I knew, Something Got Me Started is definitely the one that I like most, which is the first track on the album. Lyrically, some of them I felt were also quite bland, but there was some stuff to dig into. Again, For Your Babies is a track that I kind of got sick of because I heard too much of it. But this time I actually listened a bit more carefully to the lyrics, and I thought, actually, there's some inspiring stuff in there. The track Freedom is a very generic kind of pseudo-freedom fighter kind of track, or about freedom. Not really sure if it's about anything specific. Wonderland is apparently political, about dissatisfaction with the Conservative government, which is a sentiment that I can get behind, but I didn't like it musically. So all in all, it's a mixed bag. Now, I know some people watch all of these reviews as they come out. Thank you for my faithful watchers. It's nice to have you along on this journey with me. And some people are dipping in. I think most people are dipping in. So this comment will only mean something to those who've watched the previous one that I've just recorded, and I'm probably going to edit it up tonight and put them both up, which was the television album. I felt like culturally I was supposed to enjoy it or like it more than I did. This album, I felt that culturally I was meant to hate it more than I did. So I kind of liked it. I'm giving it a reasonable score, mostly because I'm trying to kind of play down in my mind the ones that I got sick of, to be honest. Coming back to Stars after a long time after it wasn't too bad a song, actually. It's reasonable. He really can sing. There's some good playing on it, and there are some good grooves in here. So it's getting a fairly decent score overall. So that's what I think. I'd love to know what you think. If you want to pour ridicule on me for actually liking Simply Red, then feel free. Or if you love it as well, please do pitch in. Whatever you feel, I'd love to hear from you. And that's it from me for now.
I get off my